Senate Majority Leader John Thune joins me now. Leader Thune, thank you very much. Good to have you with us this afternoon. Give us a sense of, thank you, sir, of what's going on the floor right now. And does this have any teeth? I mean, you know, even if you adhere to the War Powers Act, which has always been controversial, the president would still have 60 days to carry out this action before he would need to go back to Congress, right?
Correct, and that's why this is a political vote, Martha. This is all about the Democrats, again, mainly through their Trump derangement syndrome, blindly, in their blind hatred of the president, just being opposed to anything that he wants to do. I mean, clearly there are Democrats, I believe, who understand that what we're doing in Iran right now makes all the sense in the world from a national security standpoint. But this is an attempt, again, to try to derail or step on the president's messaging around that and create a political issue where there really isn't one. And that's why I'm hopeful we're going to be able to defeat it, because that's really what it is. This is nothing more than political messaging on behalf of the Democrats. This isn't going anywhere. The president's acting well within his authority as the commander-in-chief. Yeah.
We're just a few days into this operation at this point, but here's what Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader on the House side, had to say about these strikes against Iran Watch.
The American people want us to focus on making their life better, making their life more affordable, not getting involved in another endless war in the Middle East that is going to end in failure.
What do you think about that, Senator?
Well, first off, I mean, the Democrats ran up inflation. You're talking about affordability. Let's talk about the highest inflation in 40 years. When Joe Biden was in the White House and the Democrats were running both the House and the Senate here. They were passing massive new spending bills, which flooded the economy with more dollars and drove up inflation. And so all the inflation that we're seeing today as a result of policies that were implemented in that administration and with Democrats in control of the Congress. What the president is doing in Iran is something that, frankly, should have been done probably, arguably, a long time ago. But Iran has been building not only its nuclear capability, but its conventional weapons capability to a point that it would have threatened the entire region. And obviously, we have a lot of bases and military personnel in that region of the world, and a lot of allies who would be affected by that, and run by somebody who has said death to Israel, death to America. That's what they believe. They're the biggest exporter of terrorism in the world today. And they are also, they have more American blood on their hands than any nation in the world, if you look at the last 47 years. So this is the president is taking steps to make the world and our country and our people safer.
Yeah. I want to ask you a little bit about Texas and that Senate race, which I know you're watching very closely because it's one of the early sort of tests before we get into the full midterm season. Here's what President Trump just said moments ago on Truth Social. He is essentially calling upon one of them. He said, I will be making my endorsement soon in the Texas Senate race. So just to remind everyone, this is John Cornyn and Ken Paxton who are going up against each other in this race. So the president is going to endorse soon, and he will be asking the candidate that I don't endorse to immediately drop out of this race in capital letters. Your reaction to that, Senator?
I've spoken with the president already today about Texas, and I'm certainly hopeful. I think, as probably you know, Martha, I've made no secret of the fact that I hope the president will endorse John Cornyn. He is an incredibly effective senator for the state of Texas, a strong conservative voice here in the United States Senate, and represents by far our very best hope of making sure that Texas stays red in November in that Senate election. And so we'll see. Ultimately, the president, you know, he makes his own decisions, but I've certainly weighed in many times, I should say, in support of Senator Cornyn, and I believe he is not only going to win the primary, but the general election in November.
Yeah, I was just watching Matt Whitlock, who used to do the Republican Senate committee. He said he believes that an endorsement for Cornyn is coming from the president. You said you just spoke with him. Is it coming shortly, that endorsement from the president?
Well, I'm not going to characterize the conversations I've had with the president, but I think it's fair to say that he's paying a lot of attention, and he knows full well, Megan, how important it is that we hold Texas in Republican column, Republican hands. And so I expect you'll be hearing from him before too long. And I'm not certainly going to get ahead of that, but I'm just very hopeful that the endorsement will be for John Cornyn.
All right, we'll be following that, and I should just mention that we're going to be speaking with Texas Senator John Cornyn tomorrow on this program, and obviously this is something that's going to be watched very closely. Just very quickly, Leader, yesterday you were with Tim Scott and Senator Capito talking about this housing plan, and I think it's one of the pieces of the economy that is a little bit unanswered, even after the State of the Union, in terms of what kind of policy programs might be put forth to help people get houses, other than lower mortgage rates, which obviously the president would like to see. What is this going to look like?
Well, first off, it is. Mortgage rates, interest rates are a big part of that, and the president is very passionate about driving down the cost of housing in this country, and particularly you talk about a lot of younger Americans, Martha, this is their opportunity to pursue the American dream, to own their own home, and we want to make it easier, not harder, and less expensive, not more expensive. So the housing bill, and we just had a procedural vote to get on it here in the Senate, got 90 votes in the United States Senate. That's very, very rare.
Yeah, it sure is.
But it will complement the things. The president said some things in his State of the Union speech about restrictions on institutional investors' ownership of, single-family houses, that sort of thing. And so there will be things like that included in there that are reforms. It will get rid and cut a lot of the red tape associated with some of these housing programs in this country and increase the supply of housing. Those are the things, but we want to do it in a way that encourages private investment, not more government. And the nice thing about this is it doesn't cost a thing. It doesn't have a score associated with it. These are just changes that will increase supply, reduce red tape, and make, I think, important reforms that should make it more affordable for people to own homes in this country. That's what it's all about. And the president's very focused on the issue of affordability, as are we, and we're actually doing something about it, unlike the Democrats who just ran up more government spending and continued to pile up 40-year historic inflation when they had the majorities.
So we're just about a minute or so away from President Trump in the Oval Office, Senator. So I do want to ask you one more question. It has to do with what your sense is of the American public's response to this Operation Epic Fury. I don't really want to look at the polls quite yet on this. I think it's only a few days in, and I think people are still kind of figuring out what they think about this. But are you concerned about how long it will go on? We heard Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, say it looks like, I think he said somewhere around a max of 8 weeks.
Right, and I think, that clearly the American people's patience and tolerance for long wars isn't great. But I think what they are doing there is achieving the objectives that they set out to achieve, and that is to diminish the capability of Iran to threaten the entire region and the world with nuclear and conventional weapons, to diminish their naval capacity in that region, and ultimately, I would love to see a leadership change there, Martha. I think a regime change is a worthwhile objective. That's not something I think that's part of the president or our Defense Department or the State Department's objectives here. But I think right now it's about achieving our military objectives, and it's very clear. Those have been identified by the president and his team, and I think the folks in the region are making significant headway in accomplishing that objective. And we want to make sure that we continue to support them and continue to pray for our men and women in uniform, and particularly those families who have lost loved ones.
Absolutely. We just learned their identities for them, and we're going to show their pictures and honor them in a little bit. Thank you very much, Senator and Majority Leader John Thune.